You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the October 21st, 2024 meeting of the Long Beach Advisory Plan Commission. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Good evening. Welcome to the Advisory Plan Commission meeting. It is October 21st, 2024, and it is 7:02 p.m. Just making sure that Nick Carstring has said, oh, darn, yes. So call to order and let's do the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. Kendra Bartlett is absent. Jim Diener is on Zoom. Diana, sorry. I guess I'm answering for you. Thank you. Matt Carstrand is not here right now. He indicated he's on his way. Seth McCormick. Here. Anita Remage is here. And our town attorney, Chris Willoughby, is present. And we do not have a quorum at the moment, so we cannot approve our minutes from the September 16th, 2024 meeting. We will wait until next month. And our old business is the comprehensive plan review and the McKenna proposal. Paul Lippens, Vice President McKenna, is in attendance. And thank you for coming, Paul. And he's going to give us an overview and then we will be happy to ask some questions. So come on up. Jim, you can hear okay?
Yes, so far so good.
Okay.
All right. Well, good evening, everybody. It's my pleasure to be here. Happy to be discussing the next comprehensive plan for the town of Long Beach. I was mentioning on my way in, and I'll mention for everyone's benefit, I was reminiscing about when my firm was able to help you with your last comprehensive plan. My then colleague Steve Hannon worked on it with John Jackson, who is now the company president and owner of the firm. McKenna has been serving communities across the Midwest since 1978. Our founder, Bill McKenna, sold the firm to John, I think it was about 2017, 2018. So it was right about the time when you guys were doing your last comprehensive plan, maybe a little bit before that. We believe our firm is really dedicated to providing planning services, and we believe every town deserves good planning. And that means that we have to really adjust what is needed to serve the communities that are looking to do this type of an update. So the proposal that I provided for you to review is right-sized. I went through what we had done the last time with you. I looked at your last comprehensive plan and really wanted to provide a service that was meeting you where you're at, that would provide an opportunity for the residents of Long Beach to provide meaningful comment in a way that they were familiar with, which is the survey. And then that we would review the last comprehensive plan, think about any strategic issues, the way the community wanted to grow, and do a meaningful update, but do it in a way that we understood what the hot button issues were today. I was also mentioning that while I was kind of in the mix when that plan was happening, and remember many of the discussions that were happening during that time, since I wasn't on the team, I became curious about Long Beach, and I've made several visits here to check out the community, along with visits across Northwest Indiana and some of your neighboring communities, which we have also worked with both in Southwest Michigan and Northwest Indiana. Currently, I am working on a project in Michigan City. We are working on, the decommissioning of the Indiana State Prison and doing some planning around that with, the regional economic development partners and just starting. So there'll be more kind of to come on the public process involved with that, but just by way of mentioning, I have been, in this region frequently and will be in this region over the next year, quite a bit. And it would be my pleasure to spend some of that time with everyone here talking about your comprehensive plan update. The process we proposed involves strategic issues identification, which is something we thought we would do with this plan commission. Have a few discussions. I mean, we could start that discussion tonight, but we would be back in a formal way to talk about setting the strategic dialogue for the plan. And then we would look at updating your comprehensive plan by updating your community profile, examining the regional context, natural features, thinking about the existing land uses and how they might relate to your future desires for the town, either in growth and preservation, thinking about population trends, if there's opportunities to address new housing or maintenance and renovation of the existing housing stock. Thinking about your needs for community facilities, expanding needs for community facilities, including, parks facilities or those types of amenities for residents. Thinking about any demands on your transportation network. If there are things that need to be updated, if there are things that need to be maintained, and other infrastructure concerns. The primary method we've proposed for public participation is a survey, because we understand it worked very well last time. And I think that is a really great way of reaching people where they're at, especially if you have a community that's inclined to participate in a survey, which we understand Long Beach is. We certainly throughout the process could discuss additional public engagement methods if there became an opportunity or a desire from the town to do additional methods. We sometimes host town hall events. We can even attend community meetings that are already happening and kind of meet people where they're at. And any number of different workshop opportunities. Those kind of strategies can be discussed with the Plan Commission and if needed, that would be a service that wasn't included, but I didn't mention here that that's something if Plan Commission desired, we would happily expand the process based on your request. I do think that in reviewing the last comprehensive plan, the objectives and policy plan is kind of where much of what you want to see happen in the future is housed. So I think updating that objectives and policy plan would be something that we would look at, and that might be something that we would consider at a working session with the Plan Commission. Kind of revisiting what was in the last plan, what is potentially missing, what strategies are needed to include, and putting a timeline on some goals for future policies. I did mention the future land use plan. That's kind of looking townwide at what the existing land use is, but thinking in the future if there's any desire for transition uses or any need for accommodating different types of uses or transitional uses. We would do that through a future land use map, and that would help you guide any zoning regulations that you may want to modify. Now, I'm not suggesting that there is anything that you want to modify. A lot of times what I say to people is if you love the town you live in, if you love the place you live in, best thing you can do is plan. Because that's the best way to get ahead of what could potentially happen and change, is to have a well-articulated policy and to express that policy through your comprehensive plan. The final thing I included in the scope was the implementation strategies, which we would look at the strategies that are represented in the plan and come up with a timeline as well as responsible parties for implementing them. That way, the plan can be tracked and you can think about what needs to be done or what could be done, before the next time you decide to update it. We would, meet with, the commission to do a final review and, go through the town's adoption process as well. So that's the overview. I am here tonight to discuss any questions. I certainly would be very happy to hear a little bit from each of you about what you think the most important issues we might explore are. Love to learn about the town from your perspective and what you think the need is for your next comprehensive.
Yeah, Kara's here, that would be joining.
Sorry, appreciate you being here.
It's okay. That was like something, start, you ready to start? If you don't want to start. Okay.
So I have a list of questions. So we make sure the presentation. So how similar like the various comprehensive plans that you for the region?
We're process-based, which is, one of the best ways to ensure a good outcome is to go through a standardized process, right? So I think that, briefly described is a good process for a comprehensive plan includes, research, understanding the data that exists today, and examining that against the past plans that have been done and what has been accomplished since then, as well as, future projections. So that's kind of the analytical side of it. That needs to be balanced with the right amount of public process to make sure that the findings of that research actually align with what people experience day to day in a town and also what they want to experience in the future. Through those two processes, along with talking with leadership, we can generally come up with a plan that's also based in, best professional practices. So our goal, when I talk to community members, it's to have a process that everyone that participates in that process can see value in the time they give us and see themselves reflected in the document. Our goal then is to actually align that with best professional practices and, recommendations that help a city grow in the way they want to grow. Sometimes I talk about that as being like, everyone in this community, you're the experts. You know this city well, you know where you want the city to go. If we were in a cab ride, I'm a driver. You're gonna get in the cab, you're gonna tell me where you wanna go, but I know the roads and know how to get there. So that's what you can rely on my team to come up with those ideas and strategies that faithfully represent the wants and needs that we hear and work with.
Okay. Rather than getting wrong, not like the analogy of Texas. I do too. There's worse going that we've got a plan, can't give ourselves shooting business. Those are two very different questions, right? Well, answering the questions very different.
It's true.
And so, and like, there's just some things that we think about during the plan that we don't know how complicated they will be, how important they are. And then one of those things is notices from municipalities, utility letters, and other stakeholders that the town is initiating an update to its comprehensive plan. Can you give us examples of how that might impact what our comprehensive plan says?
Well, what we do, and this is a best practice in the planning profession. In Michigan, it's required by state law. You have a little more flexibility in Indiana. But what we recommend you do is send a letter. Send a letter to your neighboring jurisdictions and say, we're doing a plan and we would like your input. We'd like you to know what we're doing. And what that should do is give you the opportunity to hear from some of your neighboring jurisdictions, what they think about your policies. Sometimes comments that we receive result in substantial changes or substantive, not substantial, but meaningful changes to a planning process. Sometimes we work with people and they kind of take comments under advisement, but I think it's a good practice. I would say it's not, it's almost like a courtesy. you know, it's just nice to, do that level of intergovernmental coordination. So it's something that I think you'd benefit from doing.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, that kind of leads to my next question, which, I mean, how often do these other stakeholders actually respond? And how often does that affect the kind of outcome?
Not as often as you might think,
Okay.
right? It's more, in my experience, it's more of a courtesy than a process that drastically affects the outcome of the process. Some of the most meaningful comments I've gotten are just related to what other communities are planning on the edge that you might not be aware of, and that could potentially affect how you define something you wanted to do on your border.
I mean, because you could see how, I mean, there's rumors that NIPSCO's planning on shutting that plant. And then obviously the prison's shutting down, and then obviously you have the new train line. It's like, and then just generally, like, yeah, in NIPSCO, the South Shore, they aren't necessarily germane to what we're doing here, but what they can could impact us greatly. And we want to be forward thinking enough to like incorporate what those plans were into what our things. So that's why, you know, that's why I think that kind of communication would be important.
Yeah, and I think that part of the research, kind of the research on past plans too, and the regional context analysis will put some of the issues that we hear from you about what you want to see for Long Beach in context, right? Because the region has a certain growth trajectory. You know, the region has, you know, many places that could change, many places that are destinations. And, you know, Long Beach will grow within it. You know, this is, you know, Lake Michigan, again, is a beautiful place. You guys are blessed with a, you know, wonderful location for your town, great quality of life. And, you know, your plan is the way you influence the future of that.
Okay. All right, and kind of a different subject, it's kind of judged with, task 3, which is public participation. This seems to like entertain a survey only. And my recollection, at least from the people that I've talked to about prior processes, it was a struggle to get people on to actually answer the survey. I think you'll see that a lot of Long Beach has changed significantly over the past 5 years, and not so significantly in the past 5 years. But what are the strategies that you would use to reach people that we are having trouble reaching? And then what would it cost? Like, what are those strategies and what are those approximates? Like, if you're ballpark. So what I don't want to see is us say like, oh, let's do this for $14,500, and there's a bunch of hidden. Well, if you want to add that on, that's $5,000. If you want to add that on, that's $10,000. And if you want, so we would want to know, like, you know, what are the plan strategies, knowing that we're going to run bumps along the way, what will those approximate costs be? And then what are the ways that we can, what are some of the strategies that we can use to like help prevent those costs, like a steering committee or something like that, right?
Well, we didn't propose a steering committee, but in a way, we proposed that the plan commission be the steering committee. So, and I think that that's for a town this size, a really good way to move forward, right? You have time, you're volunteering, you know the town really well. And it is typically the charge of plan commission to lead the planning process anyway. Most communities I work with that do initiate steering committees, you know, maybe they've got packed agendas, maybe they want, you know, feedback from school members, businesses, maybe multiple homeowners associations or neighborhoods. When there's something driving the need to have this kind of diverse body of people contribute in a separate process. And the outcome of the steering committee process usually is a technical recommendation to the plan commission, right? So then you would make your recommendation to your town council to adopt, right? So I'm not sure if that's needed, but if you wanted to do that, we could include a price for that, but I didn't include that as a menu item, but typically that would involve however many meetings you want, and preparation, attendance for that, those probably range between 1,200 and 1,500 a meeting, if you wanted to do that. So I think that's probably, I would probably recommend 2 to 3 if you want to do a steering committee, which is even more planning commissions than I've recommended. So I'm not recommending that strategy, but if you are, I think that's one way to move forward. With respect to
I think I would function. A steering committee was, like.
Right.
I think it would be great to subset of the advisory committee.
And from that perspective, you guys could do a special meeting, you could create a subgroup of people for this plan, and from my perspective, it wouldn't change the cost, right? So we could do special meetings instead of planning commission meetings if you don't want me to come to the whole body, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's generally the way we work, is it's, apples for apples, we will adjust this scope to what you want. And I will say, when I say this is a right size scope, is, I'm respective of budget. I wanted to propose something that was reasonable based on what I thought you guys wanted to spend for this process. I also looked at your last comprehensive plan and feel that that type of a deliverable, I think we can update it for a reasonable expense, right? So a lot of what I'm doing here is kind of the process, the research, and this survey. That's kind of where most of this budget is. You asked about kind of strategies for getting the survey out. I'm fairly certain I remember last time we did do a postcard mailer that went to everyone in the town.
I got the timeline, but, I don't know if that helps, but, keeps on updating. I was looking for the postcard.
Oh, well, so the postcard mailer is, here's the advantage to doing mailer. Advantage to mailer is that you get a 100% population study, and you will get, it doesn't matter how many people take it, we'll get statistically valid results.
Sure.
So the cost of that, I did not include the print cost or the mailing cost in this. So if you wanted to do something else, like just email, blasts, flyers, QR codes, that type of thing is included, right? So we would make as many types of flyers, we'd write up the invitation text, we give you some email blast language, Facebook posts, or neighborhood next door type thing. Those things wherever the networks are that you want to reach out to. I think the strategy is do it once, try to set a month-long deadline, and then we reassess how many responses we have 2 weeks out, and we extend. And you can get a lot of responses with direct asks and email blasts.
Okay.
Right? And that's kind of the low budget way to do it, is you just keep asking until you get the responses. And let people know that it's important. Like, there's a reason why we're doing this. We're gonna go through these surveys, and these surveys are going to result in what the recommendations in the plans are. There are certainly more things to do to get the word out about a survey. Stickers, T-shirts, putting, sometimes we do yard signs with QR codes. I wouldn't recommend that because I don't like yard signs, but you can do it. But I think that the two choices are, one, we're gonna make flyers, we're gonna email, we're gonna get the word out. And a little bit of that is we're gonna, roll up our sleeves and we're gonna get people to take a survey. And the reality is when you do it in that method, what you're kind of doing is like, think of it as like an online focus group, right? So what we want to do is, we're not as concerned with this statistical relevancy or validity. What we want to do is we just want to learn as much as we can, because we're going to look at this, we're going to look at it with prudence, right? We're going to look at these results and, we're going to say, all right, we've got, we know every single computer that took this, it's in the data. So we know if someone took it 8 times, and we'll just sort it out. And we know if someone is a good faith actor in the survey, or if someone is just kind of just playing with us a little bit. If someone's responding with totally wacky things, we just never ever pay attention to it. It's not relevant. They're not a good faith actor in the process. And that type of prudence is a good way of looking at public process, right? We're here to utilize our judgment. We're here to utilize our judgment in creating responsible and meaningful policy for the community we represent, and we're going to do that. The other thing is doing the statistically valid survey. It's a great way to do it too. And here's the advantage to that. You will pay a little bit of money to do a postcard and mail to everybody, but the results that we get, we can say with a level of confidence how accurate they are. And then the drive is not to get as many people as possible to take it. The drive is just to report our accuracy based on who took it. So we'll have a confidence interval. And we'll say, look, yeah, we got 100 responses out of everyone that got it. And so we don't have a great confidence. But this is the information we got, and we still exercise judgment. We still use prudence, and it works. One way or another, you will have meaningful recommendations in the plan.
The postcards, would you have the information, you get people to send it back? It's like the postal pay, or they have to send it back?
No, what you do is you send the information on how to take the survey online on the postcard. Yeah. So it's still online. People still get to kind of look at you use your phone, boop, you take it right there. But because it was
This is the way to get it.
So to that point, the QR code will do same thing, potentially give a link just a different way? Or would that, and the reason I ask is because water bills go out on the postcard. And assuming that they don't take up all the space, or there could be, is that something that could be utilized by the town to put that link there?
Yeah, absolutely. The key thing to getting the statistical valid survey is that it's a 100% population mailing, so you could absolutely do it on the barcode. Yeah. Yeah, and many people do. Yeah.
And if we did it separately, then we're going to do this, but we're kind of all for president.
It's a hard question, and I don't recall how many people are in the town offhand.
That's
How many people?
15.
Yeah, I was thinking about 2,000, so 1,500. It's not gonna be as pricey as you think. I know, it would probably be somewhere between 1,000 and 3,000. Many communities use Vistaprint. It might be significantly less than that, but there are options out there, so.
This is.
Yeah. I know I'm doing a comprehensive plan for the city of Pontiac in Michigan, which is a city of, I think it's about 90,000. So at least 70. I think it's in that kind of just shy of 100,000. And then their quote was, I think, almost 10,000 for the whole city. So, I mean, obviously it gets cheaper the more you do, but it is, still, it's not terribly expensive, so.
Okay, everything on the subject would be conflict resolution. How do you deal, or do you deal with, like differences of opinion in terms of what the city agencies there proposes? There's some people on who think that, like commercial business development should be properly included. Other people, oppose current methods by people to get a permit to do business and stuff. And other people have actually denied permits for proceeding when you conduct a small business meetings. So, how do you go about helping us resolve the resolving issue for purposes,
Well,
or do you?
I mean, I think that, yeah, the field that we work in is a field where there are vastly different opinions about things. I think one of the things that I like to do is kind of myth busting, right? So one of the things, especially about divisive issues, right? People tend to think that their opinion about it is widely held, right? And then the opposing position is kind of the minority, you know, or even a vast minority, right? What we really know about public discourse is that the dividing line, it's usually around 51 and 49%. Right? These are complicated issues, right? So I think that one of the things that we can do is ask pointed questions and ask them plainly and present the results so that we can, you know, reveal that there isn't broad consensus about some of these issues. So we need to make informed decisions and set policy. Now that can be done in a number of ways, but I think it depends a little bit on how your board functions, right? I was talking with a colleague the other day about a zoning ordinance that was done, and the community he was working with, their plan commission had agreement on 95% of the issues in that ordinance, but there were 5 or 10 issues where they were really disagreeing. And what they agreed to do as a board was go through each one of those issues one by one and vote. And they decided that they would support the outcome if they lost, and then support the zoning ordinance 100%. So I think some of that is kind of thinking through just your local strategy and say, what is our goal? Can we agree to govern together? Can we agree that if we do wind up in the minority opinion on one of these issues, that we will act as a board and support the majority opinion? Moving kind of farther out from that to the community, I think we have to think a little bit about that as well. And one of the things I said, kind of, if you love the town you live in, the thing you should do most of all is plan. And you should plan because, change is coming. The world never stays the same. And some of that is the market demand. You mentioned a few things happening regionally, even with the transportation system, which, those things will impact Long Beach one way or another. But this community has the ability to plan how it will grow or not grow, how it will manage those constraints through its planning process. But what I guarantee you is if you don't have a plan that addresses those, you will be having those types of arguments at every meeting because you won't have a policy to guide you. I would say, I'll say one more thing on it because this is interesting to me as well. When you create a plan, right, there might be something that you want to change about your policy, right? But don't go for everything in one plan, right? Like think about what that change might be and make it a baby step, a little bit of a baby step to test. I'll give an example. I worked with a community that had wanted to do like a road diet, right? And they wanted bike lanes right through their, does everybody know what diet is? All right, so this is when you have a 4-lane or a 5-lane road that goes through a part of your town, a big road, and you take away lanes. So you permanently, right? So this was a town that had a 4-lane road going through and they turned it was actually 5 lanes actually, and they turned it into a turning lane, 2 through lanes, and they added bike lanes and they had sidewalks, but parking, but they made the parking back in diagonal parking, which is, I don't know if you've ever tried it, back in diagonal parking is kind of cool, but people's heads get a little messed up with it. So it was like, in addition to back in diagonal parking, they also added bike lanes. And it was like, you went too far. People really, they got too much happen really quickly. And they had to actually turn this back because They could have done one thing, right? If you wanted to try to park, you can try to park. If you want to try the bike lanes, try the bike lanes. But if you put too much in, maybe you're going a little too. So I think that it's, even in thinking through some of these changes you might be wrestling with, you want to think about what is best now. And I think growth management is a wise thing. I think you want to think through, what the potential markets could deliver, how you'll accommodate it, how you don't accommodate it, and then what the residents of this community most want to see. And that could be a little bit of business here and there. I don't know. We have to find out. I will say, because I like to talk, I did stop at your pizza place on the way in. I was happy I could get a sandwich and bread. So, yeah.
It's great.
The little giant pizza
Yeah.
place, okay, good pizza, I didn't know which isn't one. Alright.
No, I was right here. You have a little bit of a neighborhood center here, which is, I
Okay,
enjoy it, yeah.
I'd like to talk about survey,
Yeah.
because I can see where, there's gotta be a balance, because you need to ask enough questions to get some valid input, but there's also a point where people are entering the survey and they get 10 minutes into it and go, okay.
Yeah.
So how do we, determine what questions we're gonna give them and what's the length, and I'm sure you, with your vast experience with these surveys, you know pretty much where the awful line is.
You want to keep it to 15 minutes, and usually that's about 5 or 6 pages, where you kind of switch over from topic to topic. There's nothing wrong with 5 minutes, though. We can be succinct. It does. I mean, I write these surveys, I take them, and it gives a little bit of a drag towards the end, but it's good information, right? So I think that it really all starts with this, the strategy session, a discussion that we have about what you really want to explore. Because I do think that there's value in getting right to the issues that, this community really wants to resolve in this planning process. Focused is good. And I think if we could do a 5-minute survey, that would be great.
I'm not suggesting that, I know there comes a point of diminishing returns.
There also sometimes you see attrition, like people take it halfway through and then kind of stop taking it towards the end, which isn't terrible. In a statistically valid survey, your confidence interval will go down. I think we can find the right length through the survey. And we can go through and review the one that was out last time to see if there were questions that we feel like we could eliminate. If there's broad consensus on issues, from the last survey that we think are retained to this time from a policy perspective, we can not ask some of those questions. Usually, I think it is a good idea to keep some level of demographics type surveys, so we want to know who's taking the survey. So I would retain some of that stuff, although we can simplify it.
Jim, do you want to jump in on anything? And sometimes it's hard when you're on something.
Well, I'm a bit at a disadvantage because I'm able to hear most of what our presenter had to say pretty clearly. I wasn't able to hear, I think because of our equipment, some of the responses of our committee. But I guess one of the things we'll have to discuss, because we don't have a quorum this evening to begin with, is how appropriate it is to do a second survey or a follow-up to what we had done, which was probably, by most accounts, most people would have felt was pretty necessary because we hadn't had one done before. I will note that this is a rather small town compared to some of your clients. We're a far cry from 90,000 people. We're a far cry from 10,000 people. And we have some issues and concerns, probably like any other community. So I thank you for making the presentation. I'm assuming maybe you have something in writing that you're leaving with the others. And with regard to an overview of this presentation and what the cost would be, because I think one of the things we'll have to decide as a group is how appropriate is it to appropriate a certain set of funds.
Thank you for those comments. I will just, in follow-up, let you know, we provide services to many, many small communities, small cities, small towns, and small townships. So, it's actually where we do most of our work is in rural areas and small areas. And we also plan, for communities on the Lake Michigan shorefront, including, Grand Beach, your neighbor, we help them with the grant application. Stevensville, Chickaming, and I did mention Michigan City, and they are much bigger than you, but we do specialize in the needs of small communities, which is what I said too, that this is kind of a right-sized proposal. We recognize from a budget perspective that, if and when you do use a consultant or a contractor, it has to be a proposal that really is tailored to your community. And that proposal I did provide to the committee in advance of coming here as well.
Thank you.
I can send you another copy, Jim, of the proposal that went out. Maybe it went to the town email, but I'll send that out to you.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Yes.
I was just,
Wait, is your microphone?
I really don't have much to ask you about. I just was the survey. We're gonna work. We would work together.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes, absolutely. And I, if it's not the survey, I recommend some type of public input on any planning process. I think the survey is the right thing for Long Beach. But
I think you just have to ask the right questions.
yes,
That's gonna be something we will all do together. Right.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Questions that I hear. I'm just looking at all my writing. Thank you for bringing up the economic thing. That was something. You just have answered quite a bit, so I guess it is just getting the process and making sure that we do get the questions and work through that. And if we're comfortable as, the plan commission doing that, I don't know that, the steering committee, so we are the steering committee, I guess. I've just spent time looking at what was done and how those questions change, and do I work through, my copy of the comprehensive plan and say, this never happened, bike lanes never happened. We've got a lot of work going on in the town that's, going to be happening on Lakeshore Drive. So how does that impact what we've done already? So I guess it's a matter of me becoming more familiar, and then when, if we next meet again, that then we're able to start figuring out what questions actually are still relevant, and how do you change the question of how, of the relevancy? How do you redefine it? So I think that, you answered quite a few questions for me.
okay, we won't get into detailed question at this point. So this proposes two meetings, one which is like kind of a working session with us, and then the other one is a meeting with town leadership to essentially implementation. Okay. If we're gonna have one meeting where we kind of pick kind of what the objectives are, how much should we have those objectives decided, or should we have them ideas, or do we just want to list the things and what to include in the survey? And then the survey kind of dictates where we go with the actual adoption. You understand what I'm saying? In other words, like, do we need to decide what the strategic objectives are, and then you help us discuss them and how to incorporate them into the survey? Or is it more like we make a laundry list of stuff that we want to include, you incorporate that in the survey, and then the survey dictates what the policy, not necessarily policies, but the objectives are gonna be?
I think that I would recommend kind of a working session approach, so, I would give you guys enough that you could, do some homework, come prepared, whether or not we use the last draft of your survey, or maybe I draft another one, me and my team draft another one based on kind of what we hear. But then I think we could do that strategic session with that survey in hand. I also think, from just a project management perspective, I want to work with you in whichever way is possible. I think we have to be conscious of the quorum, and that this is a public body, so you may want to make a motion to have a subcommittee of 2 or something that could maybe communicate with me by phone, email, maybe a couple Teams meetings or Zoom meetings, just to kind of work through that process and make sure that what we were doing at that meeting was something that would be beneficial to all your colleagues. What I want to do is create a process that really is useful, right? I would also say, I put those 2 meetings in here if we wanted to kind of change what they were and say, we're going to do what we want, a strategy meeting, and then we want a meeting just based on the survey. And then if we need you to come for adoption, we'll decide if we want you to come for adoption, and you might be able to handle that. You might not need me here, right? So I think if we amend the scope within these services, there would not be a fee change, right?
Okay, and then, so does the first meeting come after the survey, or does it come before?
Before.
That's right, okay, doesn't notice, that seems like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And I feel like I know a little bit more even just tonight, so I kind of think about this as like a little bit of a working session too, so we can, I have some information that we could use to start as quickly as you guys want to, and, you can talk through the timeline, when you might, if you'd like to take me up on the idea of maybe you guys appoint a subcommittee and we do just a couple informal talks to get going. I think that would help us, get to the point where we're at the next meeting would be really productive, which is what I would want.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. That's all the questions I have.
I'm good.
Yeah, I think I'm good, and I'm glad to hear this, because it's kind of like, I look at all of this and try and figure out how do we as a committee start narrowing down what we have, and so thank you that you will help with the subcommittee with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your attorney's here as well, so like I always advise people, a subcommittee is good because we don't want a quorum of your body talking on.
All right.
Well, we really appreciate your time.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's great to meet everybody. Anita, just, let me know, give me a call, we'll chat, and I'll hear from you.
Wonderful.
All right.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Take your water and cookies and your sandwiches.
Yes.
It's nice to.
And on the way out, always a mom, you guys.
Yeah.
Oh,
Does anyone want to? No, these are, I think. Because I think that you might be hungry, you kind of blasted, but I don't want to make
This is brag, I'm gonna brag to the whole office. Oh, this is why that's not anytime it's big tabs and see if it was. I'm sure it's. Definitely not. Scattered, where you are. That's right.
All right.
Thanks. Thanks. Fine.
Thanks, Seth.
That was only bad.
Wrap it up. Roll call.
Yep.
There to do roll call.
Yeah, it's 30. It was all.
We're gonna roll call. That's right. All right. All right, we're doing roll call again. And I need to say, it's, oh no, I'm sorry, we're doing approval of the minutes from the September 16th, 2024 meeting.
I either make the motion or second the motion to.
You go,
I make the motion to approve the minute. I second it.
I'm sorry, Jim Diener? Approved the.
Aye.
We're approving the September 16th minutes. Are you in favor?
Aye. Yes.
All right, Diana Holt?
Yes.
I don't have to ask Mayor Seth, right? Because you made the motion. Anita Remages, yes.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Just approve it.
Okay, now.
No. Done deal.
All right, so I guess,
Let's talk about this for a second.
we can talk about this for a second. So I will, just share that it is not in the budget for 2025.
That's where I wanted the meat of what we're.
A budget can always be looked at, right? But it is not in the budget. So the discussion is, do we, wait until the new year when, we see where we want to go with this? I know that, or do we wait until 2025 to put it into the 2026 budget? Is there an urgency to it?
Or do we do it without them?
Oh, I'm not doing this.
No, I mean, we don't have to reinvent the wheel, but we could do the survey, we could do a lot, we could get a lot of this done without them.
I thought it was reasonable, reasonable.
I'm all for it. You're saying, telling me we don't have any money, that's the next step, right, over.
No, we have to tell them. It doesn't mean there isn't any money. What it means is that what happened was that when we were preparing the budget for 2025, he had not yet submitted the proposal.
Right.
But it didn't get included, but that's not a hurdle that can't be achieved, right?
Certainly there's funds that are available for other services, certainly.
Yes.
Be reappropriations or additional appropriations and moving it around.
Okay.
So that would be, with Meg and what other projects are going, so it's just not a specific budget item. Could be, could not, could be.
It's not only.
Yeah, no, it's not totally out, and that's just a discussion that would be had with Meg and Trista and the council, right? And you see if it's possible. Does it have to happen in the next couple of months? No. And am I comfortable, talking to Paul about that and saying it's not in the budget, but give us a few months and, let's see where we go with it.
Okay.
And that's reasonable,
I think
I think that's very.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that we have anything to do with budgetary concerns. I think we would, I personally think that there's enough pitfalls in this.
Mhm.
And there's enough wasted time in this, trying to do it ourselves. The PE demonstrated that they have a process, and they demonstrated that as long as we don't go beyond the scope of the plan, unless it's absolutely necessary, this would be value to the town, in my opinion, in terms of getting a good product and getting a well thought out comprehensive plan that reflects the values and objectives of the town. But I feel like we kind of wasted their time a little bit. If there's no money they're getting in 2026. I doubt.
No, I don't,
I doubt that this will be a good, quote, 2 years from now.
it will not be a big quote, and that's where I am with it, that, you know, just talking to one other council member that I would certainly be in favor of talking to our clerk treasurer and Trista Hudson, just to kind of see where things can be moved. And I don't see telling him that, because I do see it as a value to the town as much as anything else.
When I started out as an employee with this. Like I did not, I wanted to try to do it ourselves for cost savings measures, but I think tonight you convinced me that there's enough places where we're gonna miss something.
Right.
Or we're gonna waste a bunch of time. We don't have the skill set necessary to do this. And as long as we have, like, the beer buildings advised by the beer buildings work on it, I think I would support. Proposing that, you know, given that money's been to adopt this, but if there's not money, there's not money. I would not want to go in there.
No, I mean, it's a reasonable discussion.
These guys do, that's what you're saying, I mean, let's let them.
That's not what we do.
Right.
I feel.
We are novices, we're total novices.
Yes.
These guys, this is what they do,
Yes.
I like that.
So I think that then it's just left to me to have a discussion, about money for 2025.
Yes.
And then I also need to check with him about, you know, if there's money, like how much money do they need to start the process? You know, they talk about a lump sum fee, but is that negotiable?
Well,
So
there'll be a deposit and maybe a couple of draws,
I don't know, yes.
I would imagine.
All right. So that's reasonable, Chris, correct? Okay.
Council.
Correct. Where the money will come from at the end, council. Okay.
And if I'm looking at this timeline last time correctly, it's not a short process.
Oh, no.
And, right, so, you know, it could be that part of that money, it doesn't even mean to be.
Yeah.
All right.
All the reason to get rolling though.
All right.
Yeah.
I will do what I need to do and report back.
Okay.
All right, it is 7:59. I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, never mind, roll call vote. I thought about that after I said, okay, Jim Diener, do you approve the motion to adjourn?
I do.
All right, Matt Parsfield?
Yeah.
All right, Stephanie Gorman?
Yes.
I do, Anita Ramage, Diane Holt?
I do.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.